politician that comes to you and says, I'm going to do only one term, that's a sign of desperation. It will not work. Just like all these gambits about serving food, carrying plates, and doing boy at parties that could be better organized by event organizers, it's also a sign of desperation. It doesn't work. It will never work. And then the second challenge, of course, is that you say the North will buy into this idea of one term. No, the North will not. Because the civil war in this country has never ended. I don't believe that Northerners who are already aggrieved with a Yoruba president will just shift and embrace the possibility of an Igbo president. There are contradictions in this country that have not been sorted out. We should lay the emphasis on competence, ability. If the Nigerian people are politically educated to a point where they can vote for a competent person, regardless of where he comes from, regardless of his religion, that's when this country will begin to move forward. So all this, I will do one time, I will serve you food, I will give you agbado. No, please. That's not going to work, in my own opinion.
Barrister, we have two things to talk about here now. Now, Reuben Abati, I'm a very strong critic of Ruben Abati because I view him as a hypocrite. But sometimes he actually makes sense to me, and I talk about it just like this. The two things he talked about, I totally agree with him. I totally agree with his analysis. And we talked about this issue of desperation. I was among, if not the first, because I never heard of this desperation of a thing until when I talked about it. I started hearing other people talking about it. That Peter Obi's body language and this issue of one-time stuff, and when he was sharing food in an event or whatever, I basically told you, we talked about this on this show. I said, these are signs of desperation. So this is Ruben Abati confirming what I said, and so many other people are coming out with the same projection as well. These are signs of desperation. When he mentioned that, even with the first, when I watched that interview of one single time or whatever, it just hit me. I say, this man has become desperate, and that is just it. Why will you be desperate? You have all it. You have all the qualities. Let it happen organically. Let it happen naturally. Let it flow in a spontaneous way. Don't do whatever. Again, like what I said, what this man said, I believe what he said, this issue of the North will not buy into that. I agree with Ruben Abati on that. Barrister, what is your take on that? I remember you and I talking about the issue of desperation. You didn't take it from my own angle, you took it from a different angle or whatever. So what is your thought on this?
I do not agree with either of the points that Ruben Abati raised. I do not agree with either of them, whether from issue of desperation or whether the North will not agree with it. Look, right from 1999, there has been issue of, number one, with Obasanjo, there has been issue that Obasanjo agreed to a one term with the North, who brought him into power that he will run for one term. And that's why many of them were pushing Atiku towards the end of the first term so that Atiku will run. Obasanjo vehemently denied that he had any agreement with anybody for that one term. Again, during Jonathan's time, there was issue that he had taken over from Yaradua. And there are some people that even went to the extent of saying there was a written agreement that he will only do one term after exhausting the tenure of Yaradua. And again, Jonathan vehemently denied and challenged anybody to bring up any agreement where he agreed to one term. So this issue of one term has always been there, but nobody has ever said, yes, I agreed to do one term. Publicly. Maybe you do it privately and there's no evidence to show. Now, in the context of the Nigerian politics, we have always agreed that there should be rotation between the North and the South. And by this rotation, we are talking of 2 terms of 4 years. That's 8 years. That is the unwritten agreement. But it's being implemented, so to speak, even though the hiccup of Jonathan came. So as we are today, by that unwritten convention, the South is supposed to run the country for 8 years. And Tinubu is running the country in his first term. That means that the South has another 4 years to run by that unwritten arrangement. Now, if you are a politician in the South, if you are Tinubu, you know there's no other way, you have only one term. If you are another politician in the South and you want to get votes, you want to assuage the fears of the North that electing another person from the South will take out that convention of 8 years. What do? You have to look at it and say, well, how do I get these people to vote for me? How do I convince them that that arrangement will not be truncated if they elect me? So you elect to say, okay, I'm ready to run for 4 years, so that they will keep their fears and say, okay, and you say it publicly. Not what used to happen with Obasanjo, not what happened with Jonathan. You say it publicly at public events so that there can be no denying. So it is a political strategy. I do not see it as a matter of desperation. Anybody running from the South, other than Tinubu, has to address the issue of the unwritten rule of shift of power between North and South. If you don't address it, how do you want the North to have confidence and vote for you, knowing that you will take another 8 years plus the 4 years Tinubu is doing, making 12 years, and you know how that sensitive issue is, particularly in the North.
Okay.
So I don't. Let me land and say that I don't think when a politician like Obi comes out to say that, I don't think it's desperation. It's reality. He's doing politics and he's campaigning. He needs the vote of these people, and he needs to convince them and put their fears to rest. So that should not be ascribed as
okay.
Then
all right.
Coming to the second issue, whether the North will buy into it or not. The North can buy into it. The North realize that the South has to do 8 years. They don't want Tinubu. So any other person that is coming has to give them assurance that he will do 4 years. So if you give them assurance that satisfies them, why would they not buy into it? Because any attempt for the North to present a candidate today, 2027, is going against the unwritten rule, because they are truncating the tone of the South to rule for 8 years. That is just the reality of the political situation in Nigeria.
Okay.
When Abati is shouting that until we should go for the best candidate, I just laugh. I always hear people saying best candidate. In the first place, who determines who is the best candidate? And by what modalities can we judge people to be the best candidate? I remember in 2023 election, the entire North and everybody saying that Tinubu was the best candidate. The majority of actors say Tinubu was the best candidate because of his antecedent, because of what he did in Lagos, because of this and that. So the number one, it is not certain that a majority can determine the best candidate. Best is a technical term, so to speak. And majority are not always right. So the focus, number one, should be uniting the country, stabilizing its polity, because without the unity and stability of the country, the economic front cannot also progress. We need to build the country first. We have not built Nigeria as a united country. That's the number one focus and number one priority.
All right.
So if we are going to select somebody from a particular part of the country that will help to cement that unity, that will help to build Nigeria, I rate it far more than any other thing, far more than the competence that Abati is talking about.
Okay, all right. Now, honestly, I'm still on the side of Abati here. Now, let me give you my reason. let me be frank with you. Why I agree with him that the North will not buy into that is, honestly, an average Hausa Fulani man will never, ever support Peter Obi. They will never, not Peter Obi as a person, but because he is an Igbo man. An average Hausa Fulani do not, up to now, they have not forgiven Kaduna Nzogu. They believe that Igbos actually were the ones who killed Sardana of Sokoto. They are still holding that grudge. Remember, you and I know that a Hausa Fulani man does not forgive. It is in their DNA. Hausa man can actually, they can play around with that, but when it comes to a Fulani man, they don't forgive. And Sardana of Sokoto was a Fulani man. So they don't forgive, they still hold that against an Igbo man. And that is the bane militating against Peter Obi's candidacy in the north, especially in the northwest. So honestly, they would rather, because they now view Peter Obi and Bola Tinubu. Bola Tinubu's case, they used to love him until now. That after 2 years, that they just feel he's not doing their bidding or whatever, and so they decided to turn it against him, turn against him rather. So, but the truth is, it will come to a point where they will now be in the middle between the devil and the deep blue sea, and they will prefer to go with one. And they will rather, I bet you, a Hausa Fulani man will rather go with Tinubu, support Tinubu, because they will end up saying, okay, after all, 4 years' time, he will leave and they will vote a Northerner into power. So they will rather go with Tinubu than to go with Peter Obi. That will be their calculation. You and I know for Hausa Fulani man will never go. They have not forgiven the Igbos. Now, the Peter Obi, what Peter Obi did, to me, I will still continue to see it that way, because immediately I watched that interview when he mentioned, that was what struck me. One thing about me is, the moment something hit me spontaneously, when I watch something or hear something, that first instinct, that first thing or impression that hits me is it sticks for life. And to me, that is something that I always take to hold it it's so important to me, and I hold such thing very, very strongly. And that is what I'm still standing on. Peter Obi became desperate when he made that announcement and started serving in an event or whatever. You ask yourself, was he doing this before politics? If he didn't do it before politics, why doing it? Of course, we all know that's the life of a politician. Pretense and hypocrisy. Just project to the public what you want them to see or to know. That's exactly. Besides, why I view it as desperate. You talked about someone that has the capacity to build unity in Nigeria, and we've talked about this before. You think 4 years is okay, that he can lay a good foundation in 4 years. I remember I completely disagreed with you, and I'm still disagreeing with you. 4 years is not enough. Nigeria's situation is so complex, so deep, so entrenched that 4 years you can't even scratch the surface in 4 years. You can't. Nigeria is too complex. We have the wahala where they our head playing too much. 4 years is not enough. So me, for one, why I am supporting Peter Obi is because of his antecedents in Anambra State. You and I agree on this, that he is the best candidate. He is the best Nigeria has ever produced or will ever. Okay, I don't know of tomorrow, but has ever produced. There's nobody with his pedigree, his administrative pedigree. No one has it like Peter Obi. But my problem with him right now is 4 years he can't really exhibit those virtues as the president in 4 years. He can exhibit them rather, sorry. He cannot fully implement them. He cannot, because 4 years is too small. Nigeria is not a developed country. Nigeria is not the US. If it were US, okay, 4 years you can do it because these institutions are strong. But what we have in Nigeria is that our institutions, all, no exception, all institutions are stupendously weak. They are weak. So 4 years is not just or whatever. So honestly, it's sad to say that one, the North will not go with Peter Obi. I bet you will see it. Secondly, I still believe he's desperate. He did it, or he said all he said under desperation, and that is just my angle on this.
Thing I'll tell you that is shocking. I am in contact with with the siblings of Peter Obi, and one day I called the brother. I say, "What are we going to do so that this thing work?" You know what he told me? Peter is on his own, but we are forgiving him. Listen to what I'm trying to say. We are forgiving him. We will do whatever we can. Let us. I said, what do you mean? He said, do you know that Peter was governor for 8 years and he never gave me a single contract? His own blood brother. And he came with contract papers several times. Say, young man, go and do your business. Have you been a contractor? Nobody from his village, none of his relations, and nobody from his town. These are subtle things, personal interactions that made me say, no, this man is peculiar. And then when I hear him speak, I know he has integrity. I have a flair for integrity. And the reason is because even right from school, I had formed a body which we call Daniel Generation. And that is a body that seeks to build leaders with integrity, impeccable character of integrity, to create leaders for the nation and for God.
You and I have been hammering on this. This is something we've always talked about Peter Obi. He is an impeccable character when it comes to government. Everything that man said there is true. I think I've highlighted that. I highlighted this on several other episodes we have talked about on Peter Obi's matter. That there is no single, not even his, that he did not allow any member of his family, either the immediate or extended family, to partake of anything that has to do with Anambra State government. That alone is commendable. That alone is immensely commendable. So again, Peter Obi is I've said it over and over again, is the best candidate so far. In my own, I don't, by semester I have not stretched it that further. But me, honestly, based on his antecedents, I don't think there is any leader in Nigeria that have exhibited what Peter Obi exhibited as Anambra State government. Barrister, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on what I can remember, so I consider him as the best candidate so far that Nigeria has ever produced for presidential race. What is your thought on that?
We have the same view. I have used one word, I have used one sentence to summarize the reason for my support for Peter Obi. And I've said he is the only one that will demystify governance in Nigeria. If you expand on that, it covers all the things that is wrong with our current governance. And Peter Obi exemplifies that correction. We have to demystify governance, where if a person comes into position of authority, the next thing, his family, his friends, his girlfriends, everybody that know him, that has privilege to speak to him, you become rich. Look, these people get contracts they cannot execute, and then because of the relationship, nobody can hold them to account. Whenever the president is elected or takes power, or the governor, the waste in the governance is unprintable. There is every waste. Look at look at the waste that the Tinubu government is doing. Government, I think you are aware of all the reckless expenditures that are going on. I put all these things together: nepotism, favoritism, religiosity, ethnicity. I put all of them into saying that governance must be demystified. We must leave all these things and govern in truth and in honesty, and on the basis of what the society needs. And that is why I saw among everybody that has ruled, whether as a state or as a president, I only saw this in Peter Obi. And that is why I was confident that if given the opportunity, even if he does not build the skyscrapers, even if he does not build the railways, if he succeeds in setting a template of governance, setting a template that others can follow and build on, I will rate him as a success. That has always been what I have said repeatedly. If he can reset the template of governance in Nigeria, like he did in Anambra, then we will judge every other person coming on the template that he set. I will regard that as a huge success, because the foundation must
Can he do
support
that
the
research in 4 years?
that research can be done in 4 years. And as I said, the foundation must support the superstructure. When the foundation is not good, every other problem continues to
Now,
whatever you is scratching at the surface. I
now,
want someone who will reset governance in proper governance in Nigeria and point us in the right direction. If you come again as president after him, we will rate you on the template that he has set.
you see, now the truth is, again, I do not agree with you, because even in Anambra State, the so-called reset, where is the reset now? The reset is not there, because now Peter Obi, after ruling, and if the same thing will apply, because when we are talking about his positive antecedents in Anambra, we should talk about the negative, which is not much, the negative antecedents. Now, the negative antecedents, I'll be talking about the negative antecedents in Anambra. After ruling, after the so-called reset, what did he do to make sure this reset has continuity on it? He didn't do anything. He failed. And who did we get after him? Obiano. Obiano came and just siphoned. You can imagine, you had what former governor of Taraba State said, Darius Ishaku. What the governor of then, Obiano, told him about the money that Peter Obi left in the treasury when he was leaving the government, when his term ended. About 70 something billion, hard currency, $1 million or thereabout. Please, pardon me if I'm not getting the figure right, but so around that figure, about 70 something $million in savings or so or thereabout. He said Obiano came and told him, like, I think Ishaku was the one who actually brought this to limelight. Because when Peter Obi said it, people were calling him a liar, that he didn't do that, and they even sponsored some people in government then to come out and say it was a lie or whatever. It was the governor Ishaku who said Obiano himself told him that this man left, that he was surprised that this man left such an amount, that no governor does that, such an amount, and he literally just siphoned this money to use it for something that is not for the benefit of the whatever. So what are we talking about? Peter Obi is known for he has this negative antecedent of, okay, you do the right thing. What next? What will you do? What can you do? What are you supposed to do to make sure that this right thing, this so-called, as in your own word, this so-called reset has a continuity to it, so that it will expand into the future. He was careless about who succeeded him. He was whatever, he played his own role. That's one thing I don't like about, at least based on what his record, I don't like about him. Because if you've done something good, try to kind of groom someone in your position, so that when you live there, the person continues with your policies, so that it will carry on the more. Because one thing about policy, this so-called reset, if he does that reset, which in my own case, in Nigeria's case, Nigeria is far more complex than Anambra State. 4 years is not, it can never be enough to even do the research you're talking about. Let's even assume that, okay, 4 years, he has the reset. What happens with the next person? Peter Obi is not known for actually building someone to take over from him. So if he's not known for that, it means that somebody will just come and scatter the whole thing and do exactly what is happening here, what Peter Obiano, former governor Obiano, did. His immediate successor. Peter Obi's immediate successor.
I am prepared to accept that criticism of Peter Obi as one of his failings, for failing to help ensure continuity of his policies. That is one criticism that I can accept for him. Though it's not fully his fault, because in the context of Nigeria, it is almost extremely difficult to find a few people that are trustworthy, are honest, are nationalistic. Is a very difficult thing, a very difficult process. And then you have to be out of your character to do like Tinubu did in Lagos. He has a character like that.
Yeah.
You have to be out of your character.
Correct.
To be a Tinubu in Lagos, to be an Obi in Anambra State. So why he is partially to blame. You can also shift the blame to us, Nigerians, and the voters, and the nature of the politics in Nigeria that do not hold people to account, even in glaring cases of abuse. Somebody who left money, you just came and squandered it overnight, and nobody said anything. You did not hear, and Anambra is supposed to be the headquarters of intellectual capital in Nigeria, business acumen, and all these things. And you did not hear a whimper when Obiano was governor. So a lot of the blame has to go to the voters, to the intelligentsia, to the average Nigerians. But he too has to bear a measure of the blame, because he has to know the nature of Nigeria. He knows that what he's leaving behind will not survive. And he ought to make conscious effort to bring in people who will sustain his legacy.